is real.
Hey, what is going on, people? So during the release of the recent poorly received Matrix film, The Matrix Resurrections, one of the now Wachowski sisters, formerly a Wachowski brother, Lily Wachowski, stated that the Matrix is actually a trans metaphor. Keanu Reeves himself admits that he had no idea that this was the case at all. And clearly for 99.9% of people who watch and enjoy the film, in no way see The Matrix like this, especially with the subcultures who have adopted the terminology from the film, like red pill or being red-pilled. The philosophical undertones for most viewers, I would imagine, extend far beyond just gender. In an article, Lily states, Switch in the film was originally meant to be a male in the real world and then a female in the Matrix. While this didn't actually happen, clearly we can see a very androgynous depiction of Switch in the film. I also think it's symbolic that all the other characters wore black and dark colors, while Switch was the only one depicted in white, setting Switch apart from the others. Clearly an intentional subtle symbol by the Wachowski brothers at the time. And maybe even perhaps a subconscious symbol in some sense. And even Trinity is also very androgynous in her depictions throughout the film. Neo even confesses he thought Trinity was a guy when first meeting up. Clearly Trinity is meant to physically appear as Neo's exact opposite counterpart. In this interview with Lily, it seems at the time the brothers didn't even fully have the idea of going transgender themselves. Lily doesn't know, quote, how present my transness was in the background of my brain as we were writing, end quote, The Matrix. There is one key scene in particular that I think acts as a major symbol, metaphor, or allegory that was meant to depict transgenderism in an extremely subtle way and almost an invisible way in the film. This visual cryptic metaphor is built into the "there is no spoon" scene with Neo. And again, to 99.9% of people, this scene is just meant to be a philosophical depiction of bending the rules of physical reality via the mind. But beyond that, in the way that this scene is crafted, I believe the Wachowskis encrypted the metaphor that Lily claims is in the film into this scene, and it has been unnoticed by virtually everyone on the entire planet. The Spoon Boy is played by Rowan Witt, and one of the potentials in the room is played by his sister Eleanor Witt. When the spoon is bent by Neo, the way the scene is framed, the spoon bends from the brother Rowan into the sister Eleanor Witt. When I first noticed this, I literally thought the sister was just the same boy wearing a wig, because they do look so similar. Whether this was almost a subconscious symbolic depiction by the Wachowskis, who were then brothers yet now sisters, or completely 100% intentional, it oddly acts as a perfect foreshadow for them and an example of the metaphor that Lily claims is in the film. Brother bending spoon into the sister. There is no spoon, you're only bending yourself. Brothers into sisters. Maybe I'm reading too far into this, but I really don't think so. I'm being as neutral as I possibly can on this, especially in today's YouTube climate, both socially and politically. I'm aiming to present things as a journalist would and should. Most journalists today do not do that though. I'm just simply presenting what is actually in the film. I'm choosing not to make a judgment call upon it. That's up to you, the viewer. You can draw your own conclusions. And again, to the vast majority of people, this film is something else entirely, but I do think it's an interesting thought exercise to potentially see the symbolism that the Wachowskis put into the film themselves, that was almost not even meant to be understood by anyone other than themselves. Or maybe even more fascinating, it was subconscious to them at the time. And maybe it was entirely synchronistic and not even conscious at all in any sense, and I'm just finding something that was not even meant to be there. It was just a random consequence of a brother and sister working on the film, and the way the scene was crafted just magically acted as a perfect foreshadow for this. Who knows? Draw your own conclusions. A thought that comes to mind, transgenderism acting as a sort of precursor to transhumanism, or living entirely in a digital matrix-like space. Maybe this is why the concepts are linked. What effect is living entirely on social media and smartphones having on some people's identities? And if you found that to be interesting, please like, share, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. What does The Matrix mean to you? Because I'm sure it's very different for every single person who watches it. And bye.